even deeper into the Clone Wars. This time, Season 3 is finally coming to an end. Come with me as I continue to watch through the Clone Wars for the first time. Well, hello there. My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney, where I talk about all aspects of Disney, from the animated movies to the theme parks to Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar, and the TV shows, and everything else in between. And that is why it's Freeform. And keep coming back every day for new daily content. If you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Welcome back again. It's time to finish talking about Season 3. Now, if you remember, I teased that my favorite current episode of the series through Season 3 is coming up in this video. And we've also got 3 arcs to talk about. So you ready for it? Well, off we go. So first off, we're starting up on a 3-parter, and that first episode is called Overlord. So Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka are off to go investigate this mysterious message from beyond the Outer Rim, from the Colothian system. With apparently some old Jedi distress code not used in over 200 years. Now that's interesting. And I don't know if I've commented on it before, but I love the little proto-lambda shuttle that they're using. We've seen it before in Clone Wars, but it's still cool. Like seeing it. So we get to this cool, interesting little planet. I mean, there's floating rock islands up there. Hey, they're on Pandora, right? No, probably a different movie right there. Now I have to say, seeing the sister there makes me think of some of those scenes in Zelda games with an oracle. She just has that same kind of feel to me. And I mean, the planet's interesting. I mean, the whole season's changing with the time of the day. There's no animals. The force is super strong. And that was definitely what I was thinking when we were first getting there. Interesting place. And then the first encounter with the brother. I mean, making the lightsabers go out. Being able to have that kind of effect right off the bat. Turning into a giant bat and flying off. Some cool stuff right there off the bat. Yeah, definitely a good introduction. And then we got this really cool chance to go see some old people we haven't seen for a while. Because during that night, people get all kinds of visions and see people that are long dead in the Force. Just because how strong the Force is on this planet. So Obi-Wan gets to see Qui-Gon and talk to him. And, I mean, love Qui-Gon. Cool to see him pop up in here. And then Anakin gets to see his mother, Shmi. And there's some good talk about the motivations of Anakin in there, about the vengeance that he went ahead and felt and took vengeance, after his mother died, and also how he's living for Padme, but fears what might happen to her. It's like some good delving in there that's going to pay off later, of course. And Ahsoka, well, Ahsoka sees herself. A future version of herself, which is interesting too. And some interesting warning about Anakin having planted seeds of the dark side in her. It's like, ooh, dangerous right there. That feels like some foreshadowing later into the show. Definitely looking forward to that. So then we finally get to find out what the heck is really going on, because the father, he goes ahead and talks to Anakin and tells him what the heck's up. So apparently they call themselves the Force Wielders, and they're so powerful that they've exiled themselves on a planet that is insanely powerful with the Force, making them even more powerful. But apparently that's the only way he can protect the galaxy from his kids. So that way, he's gonna test Anakin and see if he is the chosen one. Oh, and then it's kinda cool because the brother and the sister both turn into dragons to go ahead and carry Obi-Wan and Ahsoka off to Anakin's test. And I mean, cool. So then we get this whole little test that Anakin has to go ahead and pass. So he's essentially got to use the whole force of the planet to go ahead and rein in the brother and sister and tame them. And, well, he succeeds in doing it, of course. And so that is his potential destiny, shall we say. Because the father is dying, and therefore Anakin must replace him and keep balance of the children. So, see, Anakin can bring balance to the Force. The completion of the prophecy. An interesting twisting on all of that right there. I mean, this was an intriguing little episode. I mean, it was very different. I wasn't fully sure what to think of it when I first saw just that episode, as I knew even at that time, I mean, it was really dependent on what happened in the next couple episodes. And let me tell you, the next couple episodes do well. But even without that, I thought it was well executed off the bat, so well done on that episode. So then we move over to the second part of the Mortis arc, and this one is called Altar of Mortis. Now this I think is probably the weak point of the 3, but even then it's a really good episode. The strong one is the last piece. That's the strongest piece, and we'll get there in a moment. But first off, Altar of Mortis. Okay, so at the end of the last one, Anakin decided, no, I'm not going there, I've got too much else to care about. So even if his selfishness will haunt him, as the father said, not happening. So they're off on the shuttle and they're leaving the planet. Well, Anakin rejects the sun in a dream as the sun was trying to tempt him to the dark side. And Anakin tells him he will never willingly become a Sith. Well, yeah, that might not quite be true, Annie. So, to go ahead and help force him to do it, the sun then kidnaps Ahsoka. And, I mean, you look over at the sun's side of the planet over there, it's got this kind of giant tower going on, which really just made me think of the Eye of Sauron. Not sure if that was intentional, but I wouldn't be surprised just with the similarity in the look of that right there. Now, there's a debate about what to do after this, and, well, Anakin, of course, is going to impulsively head off to the tower, while Obi-Wan probably does a slightly wiser thing and heads up to the temple to try to go seek information from the father. Makes a little more sense. But if you expect either of those characters to do something different in that situation, yeah, probably not. Well, anyway, for Obi-Wan's little journey, the son attacked the father before he got there, and so, yeah, father is kind of on death's door, or at least we think so, something of that nature. And then the daughter takes Obi-Wan to a blade that can let the wielder control the son, or kill him, or something of that nature. Now, as for Anakin, well, he's heading off to that tower, right? But Ahsoka had been bitten by the son, who's kind of like this vampire, shall we say, and he's now taken over Ahsoka, so we have a dark Ahsoka. And of course, we get this cool Ahsoka versus Anakin duel going on. And then once Obi-Wan gets there, we get an Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Ahsoka fight. And on it goes, and, well, as the son is this vampire, he's feeding off of their fight. Woo, oh, oh. And this is one of those ever-evolving fights. So now in comes the daughter, and so the son and the daughter start fighting. And I'll say that fight feels even more tragic, actually. Okay, so that all's going now. The father comes on in. And, well, remember that Obi-Wan had that dagger? Well, so he's going to go ahead and try to stab the son. But Ahsoka intercepts the dagger and gives it to the son. Yeah. So what's the son going to do? Well, this one's pretty clear. Kind of go kill the father, right? Yeah, that's certainly where that heads. And so the daughter sacrifices herself to save him. It's like, oof, ooh. And it was actually a nice moment seeing how horrified the son was at the actions he had taken and what had happened. And that was a nice touch to go ahead and give him that extra piece rather than just making him pure evil, dark side, or whatever. Anywho, Ahsoka ends up getting killed by the son. Nice little revenge piece, and screw you. And so Anakin pleads for her life, which ends up being the daughter's last act. It's like, yeah, I mean, and he was pleading just how much Anakin will sacrifice for those he cares about, right? And just what ends he would go to. I don't want to think about what would have happened if she didn't come back. Oof, that rage right there. That would have been pretty bad. Yeah. So apparently this imbalance then could lead to a whole shift in the power of the galaxy as a whole. So now the Sith will be more powerful. It's like, yeah. It's intriguing just how powerful we've made this planet. So what happens here is hugely important. So at this point, having just watched the 2 episodes, I'll admit I really wasn't sure what I was thinking about all of this. There were aspects that I really liked. I liked some of the lore aspects, but at the same time, we added these mega powerful beings that heavily impact the rest of the galaxy, and I wasn't sure also if I liked how that impacted everything else, even though it was cool lore and expanding things at the same time. And that's really where I was at this point, having just watched the first 2 episodes. So then we come to the finale of that 3-episode arc, and that is Ghosts of Mortis. Okay, right off the bat, Ahsoka with the mechanic goggles, love it. That was cool. I don't think we've seen that anywhere in this show before, but Nice. So Anakin talks to the father and then ends up really getting to talk with Qui-Gon, which actually was really interesting. And Qui-Gon actually tries to give Anakin some guidance about how he really shouldn't be leaving or staying and killing the creature. He's got to look deeper and find a different path. I mean, the kind of training and things that really might have come if Qui-Gon had actually been Anakin's master instead of Obi-Wan, which probably would have worked a lot better for him. Here, this is probably on the order of being a little too late, but hey, it works. It all works out in the end. Well, at least as far as these episodes are concerned. Not as far as, say, Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars are concerned. But hey, it also works out by the end of Return of the Jedi. Yeah, it works out. So off we head to the Well of the Dark Side. And this is where this episode really becomes just one of the best episodes of the show so far. So the sun shows Anakin a vision of the future. Anakin tries to avoid looking, but he fails. There are definitely all kinds of pieces of the future in there. There's pieces of him choking Padme, the "You were my brother, Anakin" piece. Anakin yelling at Obi-Wan, "I hate you." Him as Vader, the destruction of Alderaan's in there. There's all kinds of things in that vision being seen. It's like, whew, some nasty, ugly things. And, well, of course that shakes Anakin to the core. How can you live with that? You've got to stop that somehow. So what path does Anakin choose to go ahead and stop that? Well, the sun offers him to join me, and together we will rule the galaxy and bring peace and blah, 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 blah. You know, the usual speech, of course. And of course we'll kill the Emperor and we'll take over and we'll make things good. When Anakin confirms that, we'll bring peace? Of course. Yeah, you believe that. And so Anakin joins the sun. He willingly turns to the dark side. Willingly becomes a Sith. I mean, if you saw a Force vision of your future and saw all of that, what the heck would you do? Especially when you've got all the other temptations and problems Anakin already has. I mean, could you avoid it at that point? In order to try to stop it? That's what's even worse. Whew. It's like, ay. What a mess. And then we have this conversation between Anakin and Obi-Wan after that. And, it's painful. I mean, Obi-Wan there, Anakin, are you all right? And, well, Anakin is anything but all right at this moment. And you will try to stop me. Yeah. But Obi-Wan's just more in a why spot. I mean, it's not like it's time to fight here at this point. Anakin, I'm sorry. I have seen that it is the Jedi who will stand in the way of peace. Well, then you are lost. Oh, okay. Obi-Wan didn't say that here in this episode. No. He certainly didn't say that here in this episode. After all, Anakin hadn't quite done as many terrible things in this episode as he had by the end of Revenge of the Sith. I mean, by that point, Obi-Wan's kind of cracked as far as his ability to be there for Anakin anymore, as far as his ability to try to bring Anakin back from the dark side. Here at this point, though, Anakin hasn't actually done anything bad. Here at this point, Obi-Wan still sees him as Anakin, not as someone else, and trying to divorce those two images of different people in his mind. And so he's still able to be there. Not that it helps in this moment, but yeah. Whew. Anyway, we get a little Imperial March for Anakin. Very nice. Good old Vader theme. And Anakin's eyes are a good old Sith orange now. It's like, I mean, that scene right there, both parts of it, both with the son and Anakin and Obi-Wan, loved that right there. Definitely loved that. Okay, anyway, that's not the end of the episode, though. I mean, thank goodness that's not the end of the episode. I think we'd be in trouble. So how in the world do we get out of this? Well, the father comes back, and he makes Anakin forget everything he's seen. Because, essentially, his comment is that destiny can change as quickly as love in one's heart. So he's not set in stone to that path, but certainly if he's seen it, it's going to completely screw him up. So Anakin will no longer remember. That said, Obi-Wan still does remember that encounter, so it's not like it's just completely erased. He does know what happened. I mean, Ahsoka knows about what happened, but she wasn't there for that direct encounter. Okay, so now we're going to lead up to that final encounter to go close up this arc. So the son goes and gets the dagger, which was buried in a tomb with his sister. And, I mean, you get this little nice sad point between the brother and sister. I mean, he told his sister he hated her in the other episode, but of course that's not quite accurate. I mean, he kind of hates everything sometimes too, but as he said there, I mean, that she was the only one he truly loved, and so you get this tragic character out of the son a little bit. We don't know him well enough to really get the full level and depth of that tragic character, but we do get the hints at it, and that's nice. I really do like that extra piece right there. So how the heck do we end this? How do we do it without Anakin being the one to go ahead and kill him, or without Anakin running away, as Qui-Gon suggested? Well, what happens is a father kills himself, and I mean, that was a truly sad moment there. And, well, I guess the father doesn't fully kill himself. He stabs himself kind of like a mortal wound, which then completely weakens the son as well because they're connected. And then Anakin, finishes killing them both, shall we say. But it's not like a killing out of rage or anger or anything like that. So it's okay at this spot. And I've got to go ahead and comment on the final words of the father. He's talking to Anakin here at the end, and he says, "And now I die, my heart broken, but knowing the role you will play." And Anakin says, "And what is that?" "You are the chosen one. You have brought balance to this world. Stay on this path and you will do it again for the galaxy. But beware your heart." Oh, Annie. Yeah, if only he had stayed on that path, huh? Imagine the future of the galaxy if Anakin hadn't gone to the dark side. Yeah, interesting possibilities as to what may or may not have happened right there. Maybe we'll talk about that some other day. I mean, it's a fun area to speculate on. Just like it would be fun to speculate on if Qui-Gon didn't die. There's all kinds of interesting possible different directions you can see the galaxy going depending on certain events changing and going another way. It's always fun to think about that. At least I think so anyway. Well, anyway, so this episode and the arc as a whole, I mean, this episode was so ominous, so much foreshadowing, and it was a deep dive into Anakin and the dark side and pain and suffering, and definitely it was the best episode of the series so far, and the best of season 3. Definitely. I will say I think Ahsoka was sadly underutilized in this episode. If we had found a way to utilize her a little better in this, then I definitely would rank it even a little bit higher than I did. And I can tell you, absolutely loved this episode. So we're just talking about making it more awesome right there. But yeah, no, what an arc, what an episode. Wow. Okay, so that was the Mortis arc. But hey, we're not done with good arcs. We got more good arcs left in this season. So let us move on to the Citadel arc, another 3-episode arc. The newsreel gives us a whole bunch of information to set this episode up. We find out we're looking at Jedi Master Evan Peel, who is returning from the Outer Rim after having found out about some secret hyperspace lanes called the Nexus Route that could go ahead and tip the balance of power. Now he's got captured by the Separatists and he's being held in a place called the Citadel, which is supposedly the most secure and impenetrable prison in the galaxy. And it's, of course, also in the heart of Separatist territory, just to make shit worse. Off the bat, we've got Anakin not letting Ahsoka join the mission. I mean, we've seen Anakin being overly protective before, of course, of those he cares about. And in this case, he really looks at this as a potential suicide mission. I mean, they either make it or they're dead. And he's just not willing to take that risk. Well, now, Ahsoka is, of course, going to make her way there. She talks with Plo Koon, consults with him, and then sneaks her way in. Like master, like apprentice, right? Yes, indeed. So anyway, so how do they all get into this super secure prison in the heart of Separatist territory? Well, they've got some battle droids that they've reprogrammed, and then they carbon freeze all of our Jedi and clones. Now, to be honest, I didn't know carbon freezing of actual living beings was such a big thing way back there. I thought that was an Empire Strikes Back thing that was really started in. So, interesting. Not sure if this episode's the one that expanded that or if it was already expanded before and this one's just taking advantage of that. Not sure. Interesting, though. Oh, by the way, I have to say, thank goodness there was no hot mic for those dumb battle droids that we're using. I mean, they would have completely given everything away. It's like, ooh. I really like the cool electro mine free climb up the wall as they're avoiding all of those. And then, hey, Ahsoka came in handy right off the bat. I mean, she's small enough to fit in the ventilation duct. See? And then comes death number 1 for the clones. We have a whole bunch of extra clones that are just around so we can go kill them off, essentially, in this 3-parter. There are definitely, you might as well be wearing big old red shirts on top of their clone armor because that's what they're here for. They're here to say, hey, look how dangerous this is. We're going to die. God, we do a lot of that in this 3-parter. So the first clone dies. He falls off the wall, hits a mine, and boom. Then we're off into the Citadel, and another clone dies from an electric hallway trap. All right, and then we're off, and we found PL. Yay! But sad for us, we find out he's only got half the plans, because that way he wouldn't be able to reveal everything, so the other half is with the captain. So, who is this captain? Well, first we've got to go ahead and get over to him, and we deal with a whole bunch of commando droids, which actually is a cool scene because we also magnetized like the ceiling and pulled all of their weapons away from them with super strong magnets. Although it also pulled Anakin, and so we got this cool little scene, and it was a fun fight scene. I enjoyed it. But now then, back to that question. So who is the captain? Well, it's Captain Tarkin. Nice. Good reveal. Loved it. We had an interesting little interaction between Tarkin and Anakin here. And this is definitely the beginning of their relationship as it develops over these 3 episodes. And who knows, hopefully it develops further over the course of the show. Here's hoping. But at the beginning, Tarkin's saying this whole bit about how he trusts people, and it's, I reserve trust for those who take action. Whereas Anakin, I reserve trust for those who show gratitude. Yee Annie. And I like Tarkin's opinion of what's the trust better than Anakin's in that, gratitude. Show me respect. Definitely leans in that direction. It's like, ooh. Anyway, so the end of the episode, they break into 2 groups as they're going to go ahead and work to get off to their rendezvous point and get out. But they figure having 2 different groups will make it easier for them to get there. And also, at least we have split up the plans once again. So if one set's captured, the Separatists at least won't have them. So we've got Obi-Wan, PL, and Cody in one group. And then we've got Anakin, Ahsoka, Rex, and Tarkin in the other. Now, there's where we leave off. So this was a good episode for an opener. It was well enough executed. It was definitely a solid part 1. And loved getting to meet Tarkin. That was definitely cool. So where are we going to go from here? Well, next up, the second part is called Counterattack. So you can tell things are probably not going to go as good for us. Okay, so onward go the death of the red shirts because another clone gets killed by getting sliced in half by a security door. And then we have this really interesting thing going on with Dooku in the multi-parter. Because Dooku calls and has this whole big conversation with Sobek, who is in charge of the prison. And he talks about how important it is, and he knows the balance of power in the entire galaxy and the whole war depends potentially on this. And yet, intriguingly, Dooku never chooses to actually show up. I mean, he must have had some important stuff going on wherever the heck he was. Because you would think he would show up otherwise. I mean, this is that important, and you know that there's real conflict going on there. I think I would head there. So, he was certainly busy doing something else. Okay, so now it's time for people to start making bad moves and or getting captured. So, R2 goes ahead and lands the shuttle on the platform. I mean, we needed to have the shuttle get captured, so things didn't work well. So, R2 nicely obliged. Then Obi-Wan and his group gets captured by Sobek. Oh, and another clone dies, of course. And then during the course of things, we get this really cool conversation between Anakin and Tarkin as things have been developing and going further. And again, this is probably some of my favorite aspects of this entire 3-parter is that interaction between Anakin and Tarkin as it goes through. And I'm just going to go ahead and give this conversation because I really like it. And this is after Tarkin's gaining a bit more trust in Anakin, so here goes the conversation. Starts with Anakin. You lack faith in the Jedi. I find their tactics ineffective. The Jedi Code prevents them from going far enough to achieve victory, to do whatever it takes to win. The very reason why peacekeepers should not be leading a war. Have I offended you? No, I've also found that we sometimes fall short of victory because of our methods. Well, I see we agree on something. And we have this very light Vader theme undertone to this. But at the same time, let's be honest, there's definitely something right about the problems of Jedi leading a war. They're not into this. This is not their idea. Not to mention it's corrupting them and moving them more away from being peacekeepers. I mean, it's heavily, heavily problematic. Not exactly unintentional, of course. But it's interesting seeing that. I mean, of course, this also shows part of the problem of Anakin as far as being tempted toward other solutions and not the Jedi way and not being a peacekeeper. And what we had from Ahsoka in a previous episode about, I don't know how well Anakin would do in peacetime. Okay, so now let's work toward the climax of this. So good old R2 breaks out Obi-Wan and company from their entrapment, and then they all meet up over at the shuttle. So we've got to go ahead and get to the shuttle and get off. Well, we've got this big fight, bunch of the droids coming out, and, well, the shuttle's going to get destroyed. But sadly, good old Echo is actually heading off to the shuttle at the time it gets destroyed, so Echo dies. I mean, dang. Sadly, I guess Echo was wearing one of those red shirts right there. I just kind of wish it was a more meaningful death. I mean, I get this problem sometimes. I mean, well. I wish we had gotten to see the effect of Echo's death more on the people around him. I mean, even if we'd gotten to see that, it would have been worth much more to me. But, I mean, there was just too much going on in this to really be able to give Echo's death the time that I think it deserved. Just because we did get to know Echo a fair bit through some of the other episodes. Oh well. So, obviously, things went really south at the end. And, well, the Jedi are going to have to send a fleet to the planet to go and rescue them. Into the heart of Separatist territory right there. Gotta imagine that's not going to last very long. So, yeah, things not going well. So ultimately, I mean, this was an adequate middle episode. I mean, there was a really good piece between Anakin and Tarkin in there. Echo's death, I wish had been a little more meaningful. There was some fun stuff and some not so great stuff. But hey, that all leads us onward to the finale, right? And let me say that I think the finale is the strongest point of this arc. This is an interesting change from earlier, where it seemed the third parts or the final pieces of arcs were usually amongst the weakest. That's not been the case here, as you've heard in this one. I mean, the Mortis arc, the last one was the strongest. In this one, I think the Citadel arc, the last episode, is also the strongest. And it's nice to really go out on a bang. Although, in fairness, these arcs are much more multi-parters rather than disjointed episodes that are connected. So maybe that helps too. Anyway, here we go. So let's jump into the final one, and it's called Citadel Rescue. Okay, so we get to see some more Jedi because Plo Koon is leading up the rescue, and we also get to see Master Tin, who's off in charge of the fighters, and then Master Gaia too. So this is a big point A to point B episode. We got to get from here to there. That's really what we're up to. And then it's just the obstacles in the way and everything else that pops up. And by the way, definitely we will kill a lot more red shirt clones here in this episode. Definitely a lot more. Not just red shirt clones, but we also picked up some other officers and crew from the old ship that was captured by the Separatists. So we'll kill off a whole bunch of them too while we're at it. And as before, we get a bunch of good Tarkin stuff in here. So, I mean, Obi-Wan first gets to go call Tarkin's opinion a rather simple point of view. Burn. Not that Tarkin really cares. I mean, Tarkin talks about how he's already fallen in favor of the Chancellor. Yeah, I would bet that Palpy's gonna like you, Mr. Tarkin. Captain Tarkin, that is. Which also gives a chance for Anakin and Tarkin to bond a little more because, after all, Anakin is quite close to good old Palpy. So that means there's a little more between those two. We get to have some cool fighting off of a bunch of droids that were coming in and the hounds. I mean, we got Rex double barreling again. I mean, Rex is fun to watch fight. Just is. But in the course of all of this, good old Master PL ends up getting mortally wounded and has to pass Ahsoka his information before he dies. And they all take a moment to go and honor PL's death before, well, we toss him over into the lava on the planet because, well, we don't have time. We don't have the ability to go carry that body and try to get off the planet. There just isn't the time to do that and try to make sure we get out alive. But it was nice for them to take that moment. Feels foolhardy for them to take it too, but hey, I think the priorities were more important. But, I mean, I think that goes back to comedy on the Jedi too. Like, if Tarkin were in charge, I think he would have just gone on. But with the Jedi in charge, yeah, you're going to go ahead and take that moment because it matters. And again, I really liked the moment. It was nice. It was definitely nice. So we head on over to the extraction point, which is this super, super exposed extraction point. Which, having to get to that to go to get extracted, like, that is an ugly spot to go to. And hey, it was a great escape, right? I mean, they all make it there. We have all kinds of more fighting, and we go ahead and kill off Sobek, so he's taken care of as well. I mean, this was Ahsoka actually killing Sabek in this case, while saving Tarkin. So I guess a little respect probably from Tarkin to Ahsoka for that, at least. Now, one thing I liked also, I mean, you watch Tarkin through this. Even when he's quiet, you see that he's always watching. He's always thinking and analyzing everything. And so this was definitely fun up to this point. That said, we've got to talk one more thing here because we've got an epilogue to this three-parter. And I love this epilogue. So we're back over on Coruscant. And first off, we get this fight as to what to do with that information on the hyperspace lane. Because remember, Tarkin has part of it and Ahsoka has the other. Now, Tarkin was instructed by Palpatine to bring the information directly to him, whereas Ahsoka was told by PL to bring the information directly and only to the Jedi Council. And so they're at an impasse, which means Yoda's going to go talk with Palpatine, and they're probably going to just do some kind of sharing, I'd imagine. But it's interesting to see kind of that fight already going on between the Jedi and Palpatine, already seeing them butt heads right here. I mean, I'm sure they've been butting heads a lot more than this, but we haven't gotten to see too much of it yet, so this was a nice example of it. Oh, Plo Koon gets one of the clever lines of the episode right there, because he responds to Anakin, who was asking whether he actually assigned Ahsoka to the mission, and Plo Koon says, "It appears I did." Good old Plo Koon. I like Plo Koon. I hope we keep seeing more of him throughout the episodes. Okay, and now my favorite conversation in the entire three-parter right here is actually a multi-part conversation. First off, we have Tarkin and Anakin talking, and then Obi-Wan and Anakin. And so Tarkin's talking to Anakin, and he says, "A job well done, General Skywalker." Little Vader theme playing. "I wish more Jedi had your military sensibilities. Perhaps I can inform the Chancellor of your valor." And then after he walks off, Obi-Wan goes ahead and talks to Anakin. He's like, "I'm not so sure what to think of your new ally." "Well, I think we need people like him. This is a war. If we aren't willing to do what it takes to win, we risk losing everything we try to protect. Unfortunately, war tends to distort our point of view. If we sacrifice our code, even for victory, we may lose that which is most important, our honor." And this conversation just cuts to the heart of a lot of the different conflicts going on. As far as the conflicts between Obi-Wan and Anakin, between Anakin and the rest of the Jedi, between people like Tarkin and Palpatine, etc. It's like, really cuts to it really quick. It's really a conversation about the ends versus the means. Anakin is all about the ends justifying the means. The Jedi, and their code anyway, are all about the means. You don't do something wrong regardless of what that outcome is. Now, during the Clone Wars, they are getting more and more corrupted, and they're willing to go ahead and sacrifice a little more and do things that are a little more ethically dubious in order to achieve a better outcome. But even so, they still really, really care about doing the right thing, regardless of the outcome. So this is a heavy debate that's only going to become stronger, I imagine, as the Clone Wars continue. So this was a powerful epilogue section. loved it. I mean, best part of the episode, and yeah. That said, it was a good episode. It was a good arc, too. I enjoyed it. Now, I will actually say, I think, well, really, the arc could have been a little shorter. Don't think it really needed to be 3 episodes the way it was done. Or maybe we could have spent more time with a few other things, like maybe would have had a little more time for Echo's death, for instance. But I still really, really enjoyed it, so don't take that the other way. I'm not saying that. Just because, I find definite spots to improve. Still, really enjoyed this one. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of Tarkin, I'm hoping. And also definitely some Tarkin-Anakin interaction, so I'm hoping. Don't tell me if it doesn't exist, but I'm definitely hoping it does. Okay, so we just finished off 2 big 3-episode arcs, and they are 2 giant arcs. Season 3 has been one heck of a season of these 3-episode arcs, and we've got 3 big ones that I've talked about already. And now we're off to the final arc in here, and it's just a quick 2-episode arc relatively, but still is going to be a fun one here. So this is Padawan Lost. Now we start over on Felucia, and we get a little more idea of what's going on in the galaxy because we talk about how Felucia is caught in this never-ending battle because it's near a major hyperspace lane, and so we're back on Felucia fighting again. And we've got all kinds of people there. Not that we'll see a lot of them during this because this is very Ahsoka focused, but we've got Anakin, Ahsoka, Plo Koon, Rex is there. Heck, Grievous is even on there. But in the middle of this battle, as they're assaulting one of the fortresses, and they do succeed, by the way, but in the middle of that fight, well, Ahsoka ends up getting captured by some Trandoshans who were out there working on finding prey to go take. So they figured they'd take advantage of some of the chaos of the fight, I guess, and, well, they captured themselves a Jedi youngling. And it's not the only Jedi youngling they've caught. We'll meet a few others. So Ahsoka gets deposited on an island on another planet. And she meets Khalifa, Omar, and Jinx, who are also all ex-Jedi younglings. Now, we do cut to Anakin and Plo Koon during certain parts of this series because they really spend a lot of time searching because this is Anakin. He is going to keep searching as long as he can and eventually has to listen to Plo Koon and stop searching because, I'm sorry, you've searched 12 times already. You're just not going to find her. And by the end, well, really, you get that conversation that, hey, man, you got to have some patience because she's got a strong determination. She'll make it out on her own, if so. I mean, but there's nothing more you can do. Now then, most of the episode is focused on Ahsoka over on the planet. So she's talking with those other younglings. Now, these other younglings very much have been there for years and have gotten more used to hiding and certainly aren't in the spot to go ahead and try to plan something and fight back. And this is kind of what their life has been, and they're just surviving as best they can. Now, Ahsoka, being fresh here, is sure as heck not going to go and just be okay running and hiding for the rest of her life. Hell no, she's not good with that. I mean, that's not who Ahsoka is in the first place. It just isn't. So Ahsoka helps remind them who they really are, the Jedi younglings that they are. Now, that said, by the end of the episode, Khalifa, who is the leader of that group, ends up getting killed. Which means Ahsoka's kind of going to be in the power position in that little group after this. And so that means next episode, we're going to get to go watch Ahsoka have to go make the winning play to get off of this planet and beat the Trandoshans, who will otherwise just keep hunting them for sport because, hey, it's fun. Yeah. So, I mean, this was an enjoyable episode. It's not as good as the arcs before, but it's still fine. I mean, it was neat to see the Trandoshans, and Ahsoka did well. I don't think the intercutting back and forth added to this episode. I think it would have been better just sticking there with Ahsoka rather than jumping away as we did, but that's okay. So the second part and the final episode of Season 3 is called Wookiee Hunt. So Ahsoka has this plan. They're going to go ahead and attack one of the dropships that's coming to deliver new prey to the island. Well, sadly, they end up, destroying the ship in the process. The whole fight ends up devolving, so it didn't quite work out for them. But guess who the newcomer is? Well, we did call this Wookiee Hunt, so you can probably guess that it is Chewbacca. And actually, apparently, this planet they're currently on is near Kashyyyk. And thankfully, Ahsoka can speak Chewbacca's language. Thank goodness for that. Now we got this really weird interlude that just popped in all of a sudden. We had this little funky little creature. It was a cat-like creature that was batting at a bird, or actually a couple birds. And then they end up lifting the cat and drop it out of the tree. It's just this really funky thing that I don't think I've seen Clone Wars do much of. Just kind of this comic relief moment. So the birds got the cat in the end, I guess. I don't know if they'll do more of that or not, but it was an interesting interlude piece. Well, anyway, so what happens? Let's see. They capture one of the Trandoshans. They build a communicator to go contact Kashyyyk and the rest of the Wookiees. And then they capture a speeder and get up to the main ship. And guess what? We get to see some of our mercenaries from the Bounty Hunters episode of Season 2 because the Wookiees contacted them to go transport them over to this planet. And we have this whole big old fight scene that goes on and on. Ahsoka ends up beating the boss, as you expect. I mean, it's got to be a big fight between the two of them for the end, and she, of course, wins. And so there we go. Yay, off the planet. Woo! We had a nice little interaction between Anakin and Ahsoka at the end, because Anakin's busy blaming himself, and Ahsoka nicely tells Anakin how his training gave her the help she needed. It's just a nice little moment between the two of them there. I mean, this was another fine episode. I mean, it was nothing to write home about, but it was a good one. I'll also note it was a little cliche, but as I said, enjoyable. And that's the end of Season 3. And let me say, wow. There were some really good episodes here. And the arcs are starting to really feel much more like multi-parters rather than the individual connected episodes like I was saying earlier. I mean, all three of these I talked about today really were multi-parters. I couldn't just cut one off and then end. It wouldn't work well that way. Whereas earlier in this show, you really could have done just that. Now let me say, as far as the season's concerned, there were certainly some weak episodes this season. You remember that first video I did on this season. It's like, whew, a little more painful right there. Now, intriguingly, two of those were actually from earlier seasons, from season 1 and 2, but chronologically they popped up here in my season 3 watch. So in that sense, I mean, season 3 actually is a little better when you go ahead and note that change up. Still, when this show gets it right, it really gets it right. And by the way, it's getting better at making those times happen right there. I mean, heck, my favorite arc, my favorite episode, and most of my top 5 episodes out of the first 3 seasons are all right here in season 3. So I am definitely looking forward to the quality of this continuing to increase, and definitely, heck, even if we're just keeping the quality we had in the back half of season 3, I would take that in a heartbeat, because it was a great back half of season 3. And what can I say? I mean, I'm looking forward to season 4 here. Let me say also, thank you everybody for sticking with me. Next week, we're going to start on into season 4, and I have to imagine that somewhere in season 4 is where we're going to finally meet Darth Maul, and I can't wait to see that. So definitely, hey, come on back next week, and we're going to talk some more Clone Wars. We're going to jump into season 4. And until then, what about you? Did you think season 3 of Clone Wars was the best season yet? What was your favorite episode of season 3? Or your favorite arc? Let me know down below in the comments. And thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like and share it with anyone who will too. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done it yet already. I'll see you back here again tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the Force be with you always.